There comes a moment in many lives when the heart grows tired from carrying a burden it was never meant to carry. A burden made of unanswered messages, unreturned affection, broken promises, and endless hope placed in someone who gives little in return. We tell ourselves that if we love harder, wait longer, or sacrifice more, they will finally see our worth. But life has a way of teaching us a difficult truth. No amount of devotion can force someone to value what they have already chosen to overlook. The tragedy is not that another person fails to appreciate you. The tragedy is when you begin to doubt your own value because of their blindness. Today, we are going to talk about the courage to stop suffering for those who do not honor your presence, the wisdom to reclaim your self-respect, and the power that emerges when you finally understand that your worth was never meant to be measured by someone else's inability to recognize it. One of the greatest mistakes people make is allowing another person's attention to become the mirror through which they see themselves. They begin to believe that being noticed means being valuable, that being chosen means being worthy, and that being loved means being enough. But the truth is far deeper than that. Your worth did not begin the day someone admired you, and it does not end the day someone stops. Long before anyone spoke your name with affection, long before anyone entered your life and promised forever, you already possessed a value that could not be measured by their opinions. You were born with gifts, dreams, strengths, and a spirit that carried significance all on its own. No person has the power to create your worth because they did not create you. Yet, many people spend years handing that power away. They wait for a text message to determine their mood. They wait for approval to feel confident. They wait for affection to feel complete. Slowly, without realizing it, they place the keys to their happiness in someone else's hands. The danger of this is that human attention is unpredictable. People change. Circumstances change. Feelings change. If your value depends on something that can disappear tomorrow, then your peace will always be fragile. A life built upon another person's validation becomes a life filled with anxiety, uncertainty, and fear. Think about how many remarkable people have been overlooked, misunderstood, or rejected at some point in their lives. Their greatness did not vanish because someone failed to recognize it. A diamond remains a diamond even when it lies buried beneath the earth. The sun remains powerful even when clouds hide its light. In the same way, your value remains intact whether it is celebrated by others or ignored. Recognition may feel good, but it is not the source of your worth. It is merely someone else's acknowledgement of something that already exists. There is a quiet freedom that comes when you stop measuring yourself by the attention you receive. You no longer feel the need to compete for someone's affection. You no longer exhaust yourself trying to prove that you deserve a place in their life. Instead, you begin to understand that people who truly appreciate you will not require endless demonstrations of your value. They will recognize your sincerity, respect your presence, and cherish your contribution without being persuaded to do so. The right people do not make you feel invisible while expecting you to keep shining for them. Sometimes the most painful experiences occur when we give our best to someone who responds with indifference. We offer loyalty and receive neglect. We offer understanding and receive silence. We offer love and receive uncertainty. In those moments, it is easy to question ourselves. We wonder whether we were not attractive enough, successful enough, interesting enough, or lovable enough. But another person's inability to appreciate you is not proof that you lack value. Often, it is simply evidence that they are unable or unwilling to see what stands before them. The moment you truly understand this, something powerful begins to happen within you. You stop chasing people who constantly make you feel unwanted. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces where you are not respected. You stop begging for crumbs of attention when you deserve a seat at the table. Most importantly, you stop treating another person's choices as a verdict on your worth. Their decision to walk away may change the relationship, but it does not change who you are. Never forget that you were valuable before they arrived, and you will remain valuable if they leave. Their presence may have added something to your journey, but it was never the source of your identity. The strength, kindness, wisdom, and beauty that live within you belong to you. They are not gifts on loan from someone else's approval. When you begin to see yourself through that lens, you no longer live as a person seeking validation. You live as a person who understands their worth, protects their dignity, and walks through life knowing that what they are is far greater than what anyone else chooses to see. There is a difference between giving your heart to someone and giving away yourself. Many people enter relationships with beautiful intentions. They want to support, encourage, forgive, and love deeply. These are noble qualities, and there is nothing wrong with offering them to another human being. The problem begins when love slowly transforms into self-abandonment. It happens so gradually that many people do not notice it at first. They stop speaking their truth to avoid conflict. They ignore their own needs to keep someone else comfortable. They silence their feelings, lower their standards, and accept treatment they once promised themselves they would never tolerate. What they call love is often a quiet surrender of their own identity. Real love does not ask you to become smaller so that someone else can feel bigger. It does not require you to erase your voice, your dreams, your boundaries, or your self-respect. Love should be a place where your spirit can breathe, not a place where it slowly suffocates. Yet countless people remain trapped in relationships where they are constantly adjusting themselves to earn affection. They become experts at understanding another person's needs while becoming strangers to their own. They remember every detail about the person they love, but forget what brings them joy, peace, and fulfillment. One of the most dangerous beliefs a person can carry is the idea that suffering is proof of love. They convince themselves that the more pain they endure, the more loyal they are. They wear exhaustion like a badge of honor and sacrifice like evidence of devotion. But love was never meant to be measured by how much of yourself you can lose. A healthy relationship should add strength to your life, not drain it away. It should inspire growth, not require constant emotional survival. When every day feels like a battle for attention, respect, or consideration, it is worth asking whether you are protecting love or simply protecting your fear of losing someone. The truth is that dignity matters, your self-respect matters, the way you speak to yourself and the standards you uphold matter. When you repeatedly allow someone to cross boundaries that wound your spirit, something within you begins to weaken. You may still smile on the outside, but deep inside, resentment, sadness, and disappointment begin to grow. The heart was not designed to thrive in an environment where it is constantly undervalued. It longs for mutual care, mutual respect, and mutual effort. Consider how often people stay in situations where they are giving everything and receiving very little in return. They keep hoping that one more sacrifice will finally change things. One more chance, one more conversation, one more act of patience. But relationships are not sustained by one person's endless giving. They are sustained by two people choosing each other, honoring each other, and investing in each other's well-being. When all the effort flows in one direction, the imbalance eventually becomes impossible to ignore. There comes a moment when a person must ask a difficult question. What is this relationship costing me? Not in terms of money or time, but in terms of peace, confidence, and self-worth. If loving someone requires you to betray your values, ignore your pain, and abandon the person you were meant to be, then the price is too high. No relationship is worth the loss of your identity. No affection is worth the erosion of your dignity. The healthiest love you will ever experience is the kind that allows you to remain fully yourself. It does not punish you for having boundaries. It does not make you feel guilty for having needs. It does not force you to choose between loving another person and respecting yourself. Instead, it encourages both. It reminds you that your voice matters, your feelings matter, and your dreams matter. And when you understand this truth, you stop chasing relationships that require self-sacrifice as an entrance fee. You begin seeking connections where love and self-respect can exist side by side, because genuine love does not ask you to abandon yourself. It helps you become more of who you truly are. There is a quiet sadness that settles into the heart when a person spends too much of their life asking for things that should never have required a request. Not grand gestures, not impossible promises, just the simple things that form the foundation of every healthy human connection. Respect, honesty, appreciation, kindness. These are not luxuries reserved for a fortunate few. They are the basic expressions of care that every person deserves. Yet many people find themselves trapped in relationships where they are constantly pleading for these essentials, hoping that one more conversation, one more explanation, or one more sacrifice will finally convince someone to offer what should have been present from the beginning. At first, the requests seem reasonable. You ask to be spoken to with consideration. You ask for honesty instead of excuses. You ask for consistency instead of confusion. You ask to be valued instead of overlooked. There is nothing wrong with communicating your needs. Every relationship requires communication. But when the same needs must be repeated again and again, when the same wounds continue to reopen despite countless discussions, a deeper truth begins to reveal itself. The issue is no longer a lack of understanding. The issue is often a lack of willingness. Many people waste years trying to teach others how to treat them while ignoring the evidence already before them. Actions speak a language that words can never fully replace. A person who genuinely values you does not need endless reminders to show basic respect. A person who cares about your feelings does not continuously dismiss them. A person who appreciates your presence does not make you feel as though your worth must constantly be proven. Genuine care naturally expresses itself through behavior. It shows up in effort, consideration, reliability, and respect. One of the hardest lessons to learn is that begging for appreciation often diminishes the very thing you are trying to protect. Every time you chase validation from someone who refuses to give it, you send a message to yourself that your value depends on their response. You begin measuring your worth by their attention, their approval, and their willingness to acknowledge you. Over time, this creates a painful cycle. The less they give, the harder you try. The harder you try, the more exhausted you become. And the more exhausted you become, the further you drift from your own sense of self-worth. Think about a garden. A healthy plant does not grow because someone stands over it every day begging it to live. It grows because it is planted in the right environment. It receives sunlight, water, and care naturally. Human relationships are much the same. Some environments nourish your spirit. Others slowly drain it. If you must constantly fight for attention, argue for respect, and convince someone to treat you with basic decency, you may not be lacking value. You may simply be standing in the wrong place, expecting growth from soil that cannot support it. There is immense power in recognizing the difference between pursuing connection and pursuing validation. Connection is mutual. Validation chasing is one-sided. Connection allows both people to feel seen and respected. Validation chasing leaves one person constantly reaching while the other remains distant. When you find yourself always proving, explaining, persuading, and pleading, it is worth asking whether you are building a relationship or simply trying to earn a level of care that should already exist. The truth is that respect loses its meaning when it must be begged for. Kindness loses its beauty when it is given only after repeated demands. Appreciation loses its sincerity when it appears only in response to threats of leaving. The most meaningful expressions of care are the ones given freely. They come from the heart, not from pressure. They arise from genuine regard for another person's humanity. A remarkable transformation occurs when you stop chasing what should be offered willingly. You begin to reclaim your energy. You stop wasting precious years trying to convince people of your worth. You stop negotiating for dignity. You stop settling for fragments when your heart deserves fullness. Instead, you learn to recognize who shows up with sincerity and who only responds when it is convenient. And in that awareness, you discover a profound truth. The right people will never make you beg for the things that healthy relationships naturally provide. They will offer respect because they respect you. They will offer honesty because they value truth. They will offer appreciation because they recognize your presence as a gift. And when you finally accept nothing less, you take a powerful step toward the life and relationships you truly deserve. Few experiences wound the human heart more deeply than feeling ignored by someone whose attention once meant everything to us. It is a unique kind of pain because it often arrives without explanation. There is no dramatic ending, no clear goodbye, no final conversation that brings closure. Instead, there is silence. Calls go unanswered. Messages remain unread. Effort is met with indifference. Presence is met with absence. And in that silence, the mind begins creating stories. We wonder what we did wrong. We replay conversations, revisit memories, and search for mistakes that might explain why someone who once seemed to care now appears distant. The pain is real, but the conclusions we draw from that pain are not always true. When people feel ignored, they often make the mistake of turning another person's behavior into a judgment of their own value. They assume that being overlooked means they are unimportant. They believe that being rejected means they are unworthy. But rejection and worth are not the same thing. Someone's inability or unwillingness to recognize your value does not erase the value itself. A person can walk past a beautiful work of art without stopping to admire it, but their lack of appreciation does not diminish the beauty of what stands before them. In the same way, another person's indifference cannot reduce the worth that already exists within you. The challenge is that emotional pain has a way of convincing us that it is telling the truth. When someone ignores us, the hurt feels so personal that we begin to accept its message without questioning it. We tell ourselves that we were not enough, not interesting enough, not attractive enough, not important enough. Yet these conclusions often reveal more about our fears than about reality. Human relationships are influenced by countless factors. People pull away because of their own limitations, struggles, priorities, fears, and choices. Not every rejection is a reflection of your shortcomings. Sometimes it is simply a reflection of where another person is in their own journey. There are moments in life when rejection serves a purpose that is difficult to recognize at first. It closes doors we desperately wanted to keep open. It removes people we fought hard to keep close. It disrupts plans we believed would last forever. In the beginning, it feels cruel, it feels unfair, but with time, many people discover that what they thought was a devastating loss was actually a redirection. The relationship that ended made room for personal growth. The friendship that faded revealed who truly cared. The opportunity that disappeared led to something more aligned with their future. What initially appeared as punishment eventually revealed itself as guidance. The pain of being ignored often carries a message, but the message is rarely that you are unworthy. More often, it is an invitation to pay attention to what you have been overlooking. Perhaps you have been investing in someone who has stopped investing in you. Perhaps you have been remaining in a place where your presence is tolerated rather than appreciated. Perhaps you have been chasing acceptance from people who have already shown you that they are unwilling to give it. The discomfort is painful, but it can also be revealing. It forces you to see realities that hope may have been hiding from you. One of the greatest acts of wisdom is learning to stop knocking on doors that remain closed. Not because you are giving up on yourself, but because you are finally respecting yourself enough to recognize when your energy belongs elsewhere. There is dignity in accepting what another person's actions have already communicated. There is strength in walking away from situations that continuously leave you feeling invisible. And there is freedom in understanding that your future does not depend on convincing someone to see your value. Life becomes lighter when you stop treating rejection as a permanent sentence and start viewing it as information. Information about where you are welcomed and where you are not. Information about who appreciates your presence and who takes it for granted. Information about which paths are leading you toward growth and which are keeping you trapped in disappointment. Rejection is painful, but pain is not always an enemy. Sometimes it is a teacher pointing toward a truth that your heart has been reluctant to accept. So when someone ignores you, do not immediately conclude that there is something wrong with you. Instead, ask what the experience is trying to teach you. Ask whether you are fighting to remain in a place that no longer serves you. Ask whether you are seeking love, respect, and appreciation from a source that cannot provide them. The answer may hurt at first, but it can also set you free. Because the moment you stop seeing rejection as proof of your inadequacy, you begin seeing it for what it often is, a sign that your path is leading somewhere else, somewhere your value does not need to be defended, explained, or proven. One of the most exhausting battles a person can fight is the battle to be seen by someone who has already decided not to look. It is a struggle that consumes time, energy, and emotional strength. You give more, hoping they will finally notice your loyalty. You explain yourself more clearly, hoping they will finally understand your heart. You work harder, love deeper, and sacrifice more, believing that if you can just become enough, they will eventually recognize your value. But there is a painful truth that many people spend years trying to avoid. You cannot convince someone to see what they have chosen to ignore. Human beings often believe that appreciation can be earned through effort alone. We tell ourselves that if we are patient enough, kind enough, supportive enough, or forgiving enough, the other person will change. We imagine that one day they will wake up and suddenly realize everything we have done for them. We hold on to the hope that our devotion will eventually be rewarded with the recognition we have been seeking. Yet life repeatedly teaches a different lesson. Some people are not blind because your value is hidden. They are blind because they are unwilling to see it. Think about how often people remain in situations where they are constantly proving themselves. They prove their loyalty after every misunderstanding. They prove their love after every disappointment. They prove their worth after every rejection. Eventually, life begins to feel like a never-ending audition. Instead of being accepted for who they are, they feel trapped in a cycle of performance, always trying to earn a place that should never have required such effort in the first place. The tragedy is not only that they are unappreciated, the tragedy is that they begin believing their value depends on the approval of someone who may never offer it. The reality is that people see the world through the lens of their own character, experiences, and limitations. A person who lacks gratitude may overlook extraordinary kindness. A person who lacks emotional maturity may fail to appreciate genuine love. A person who is focused only on their own needs may never recognize the sacrifices others make on their behalf. Their inability to see your value is often a reflection of where they are, not a reflection of who you are. Yet many people carry the burden as though it were entirely their fault. There comes a point when wisdom requires you to stop presenting evidence. Stop explaining why you deserve respect. Stop listing the ways you have shown up for someone. Stop reminding them of your loyalty, your care, and your sacrifices. If a person has witnessed your character over time and still chooses to treat you as though you are insignificant, no speech will change their perception. No argument will force appreciation into a heart that refuses to offer it. Some lessons cannot be taught through persuasion because they require willingness on the part of the listener. This truth can feel painful because hope is difficult to release. Hope whispers that one more effort might finally make the difference. Hope says that if you just hold on a little longer, they will understand. But there is a difference between healthy hope and endless self-sacrifice. Healthy hope inspires growth. Endless self-sacrifice keeps you trapped. At some point, you must ask yourself whether you are building a future or merely extending a disappointment. One of the strongest things a person can do is accept what someone's actions have consistently revealed, not what their promises suggest, not what their potential hints at, not what you wish they would become, what their actions have shown you repeatedly. Actions are often the clearest expression of a person's priorities. When someone continually overlooks your efforts, dismisses your feelings, or treats your presence as unimportant, they are communicating something whether they intend to or not. Ignoring that message does not protect your heart, it only prolongs its suffering. There is a profound freedom that comes when you stop trying to convince people of your worth. You no longer spend your days seeking validation from those who withhold it. You no longer shape your identity around another person's opinion. Instead, you begin investing your energy where it can grow. You surround yourself with people who recognize sincerity when they see it, who appreciate kindness without being reminded, and who value your presence without requiring you to prove that you deserve it. The truth is that your light does not become dimmer because someone refuses to acknowledge it. A mountain remains magnificent even when a traveler fails to notice it. A star continues to shine even when clouds hide it from view. In the same way, your worth remains intact regardless of who recognizes it. The people who are meant to appreciate your gifts will not need endless convincing. They will see your character, your effort, your compassion, and your strength because they are willing to look. And when you finally understand that, you stop wasting your life trying to open the eyes of those who are determined to remain blind, and you begin walking toward those who can truly see you. There is a quiet lesson hidden in every relationship, and that lesson is this. People often learn how to treat us by observing what we continue to accept, not because they are always cruel or calculating, but because human behavior adapts to the standards that are present. When respect is expected and protected, it tends to grow stronger. When disrespect is repeatedly excused, ignored, or tolerated, it often becomes more frequent. This is why the small things matter. The dismissive comment that goes unchallenged, the broken promise that is repeatedly forgiven, the lack of consideration that is explained away again and again. What begins as an isolated incident can slowly become a pattern, and what becomes a pattern can eventually shape the entire relationship. Many people do not tolerate disrespect because they enjoy being mistreated. They do it because they care deeply. They want to be understanding. They want to believe the best about someone. They tell themselves that everyone makes mistakes and that patience is a virtue. And they are right. Everyone does make mistakes. Healthy relationships require forgiveness, grace, and understanding. But there is a difference between extending grace and abandoning your standards. There is a difference between being compassionate and becoming available for repeated mistreatment. Often, the first time someone crosses a boundary, it feels uncomfortable. Something inside you recognizes that a line has been crossed. Yet instead of addressing it, you may choose silence. You may fear conflict. You may worry about seeming difficult. You may convince yourself that it is not worth mentioning. But when that same behavior happens again, and then again, the silence begins to send a message, not only to the other person, but also to yourself. It suggests that your feelings are negotiable, that your dignity can be postponed, and that your peace is less important than keeping someone else comfortable. Over time, this creates a dangerous cycle. The more disrespect is tolerated, the more normal it begins to feel. Things that once shocked you become things you expect. Behaviors you once promised yourself you would never accept become behaviors you quietly endure. The standard continues to lower while the emotional cost continues to rise. Many people wake up one day and wonder how they ended up in a situation that feels so painful. not realizing that the journey happened one compromise at a time. The truth is that self-respect is not only about how you see yourself, it is also about what you consistently allow in your life. Every boundary communicates something valuable. It says, this is how I expect to be treated. It says, my feelings matter. It says, my dignity is not available for negotiation. Boundaries are not walls designed to keep people out. They are guidelines that help healthy relationships thrive. They create clarity, they create accountability, and they protect the emotional well-being of everyone involved.